lovelies. Today I will be reading chapter 7 of Colours of Obsession by Bubbly Ship. By the time this is out, I will have likely done my live stream, which means you probably know, I'm not sure if I'll have mentioned this, that I'm going on a road trip on Friday, a long one, which means that I am recording a few different chapters and podfics before then to edit on the long drive. So yeah. Anyways, here's the summary for this chapter. Izuku makes a daring plan. So does a new participant. I'm going to get into it now. Shota is in heaven, a blissful state of existence he thinks is comparable to that of perfection, nirvana, his paradise, his amazing husband, handsome husband, oh my gosh, was interacting with their new son. Hisashi took to Izuku so swiftly, as expected. Hisashi was just amazing like that, and so was Izuku. There were still some adjustments they would need to make, which was expected. Izuku was new. Naturally, there would be a period where Izuku would be distant. But still, walking out of his bedroom and stumbling upon Hisashi making Izuku dinner, while the two bantered, utterly amazing. Shota swore he stumbled into heaven itself at that moment. His darling husband looked so handsome under the midday sun, with his blonde hair practically glowing as it was tied in a loose, lazy bun on his head. If their son wasn't there, Shota would have surged forward and kissed him until he was dizzy. And Izuku looked so precious sitting there at the table with his arms crossed and a pissed-off expression on his features. If Shota didn't agree to refrain from bombarding the boy with love, he would have rushed forward. Shota was content to simply lay down on the couch and experience this ideal homey environment he'd crafted for himself. If Oboro and Nezu were here, he thinks he might have died from overload. What a nice little family he's made for himself. A perfect spouse and a perfect son. All at home, talking to one another, interacting. Yes, this is amazing. Living like this for the rest of his days would be a good outcome. Izuku Midoriya. What a nice little name his son had. Izuku was a cute first name. He wouldn't have thought of it for the boy, but the moment he admitted his name and quirk status, Shota knew that only that name could properly suit his son. Izuku was simply too amazing to even need a quirk, either. He knew Hisashi wouldn't care for a quirk status, not when the man was so much more interested in bonding with personalities over quirks. Nor would Oboro, since he had a quirkless mother before she passed away. Nezu would probably find him interesting. He'd have to set up a meeting between them. Shota didn't trust public schools, and he thinks Nezu would be very willing to privately tutor his son. Izuku only deserved the best education, after all. Oboro will need to swing by once he gets back. They need uncle and nephew time, after all, bonding time. Though he needs to refrain from leaving the two of them alone for the time being. Oboro had a nasty habit of sneaking out of school when they attended UA together, and he has no doubt in his mind Oboro would hoist Izuku onto a cloud and steal him away for a night at a movie theater or whatever fun activity he was suddenly feeling like. Letting Izuku leave when he wasn't quite settled in yet wasn't the best idea. Shota is fully aware of how distrustful the male is towards him and his husband. Of course, it's expected. Izuku didn't know who his parents were just yet. Admittedly, this is a bit new to him. The whole situation, not only adoption, for fuck's sakes, he's adopting an entire child he's known for less than a month, but integrating one of his claimed people into his life when that person wasn't already admittedly aware of his habits. Aizawa prided himself on blending in and his ability to be indistinguishable from a crowd. To strangers, Aizawa was nothing but a background character, a blurry face in their memories. The statistics that told of passing a serial killer once in their life accounted for Aizawa. He blended in so well that Aizawa could easily roam during the day near the police stations and hero-filled areas without getting any second glances. He followed suit with his personality as well, bland and distant from strangers who tried to talk to him, closing them off before any depth could be searched. But once Aizawa gets that crawling need up his spine with an itch to grab following suit, he typically opens up to the person in question. Hisashi and Nezu he was always open to from the moment he met them. There was never any use fooling Nezu, and Hisashi was claimed as his the moment Shota laid eyes upon the man. The only person who experienced his stiff indifference was Oboro, who didn't manage to truly be seen by Shota until a building collapsed during an internship with him. Every interaction before with the cloud-quirked boy was that of disinterest. Oboro always felt like an extrovert who had to force his way into friendships with other people, who had to be the center of attention lest he wither away with self-doubt. Now he knows Oboro is anything but that, wonderfully complex and intuitive to his own needs and wants. A boy who had a quirkless mother and a reputation because of that, who wanted to try and see the light in the world before that very world vanquished it. If Oboro hadn't almost died that day, Aizawa would have likely continued on his path to heroism, an unpleasant ending for him. Not that Shota would ever be glad Oboro almost died. If anything, that was one of the worst days of his life. Shota spent an entire afternoon by Oboro's side, letting the clutching grasp of want suffocate him as he gently ran his fingers through Oboro's hair. A switch had been flicked with his indifference, and his indifference became utter obsession. Naturally, Oboro was confused by such a change, but his friend was loyal to a fault and followed Hisashi and Shota into the great unknown of villains once that single ray of hope was squashed in the attack. Either way, the boy was the only one familiar with being unused to Shota's needs in the beginning. Introducing him to Izuku would be great. His sweet little boy and his sweet little son. I don't know where I got boy from there. It's not even, in the paragraph. His sweet little son and his amazing friend. He would adore the two of them. He would adore for the two of them to get along. Even though Izuku was happy with Hisashi, he already knew there was chemistry there. Soon enough, Hisashi would be called Pa, Shota would be Dad, and everything would be just right and perfect in the world. Just once Izuku settled in. His sweet little boy was so confused and scared. Shota hates that. What he wants to do is draw Izuku into his arms and hug him until there's no tomorrow. To smooth his hand over those cute curls of his and let him know that he was in for a world of nothing but comfort and protection from then on. Doing so would only bring forth more harm than good, sadly. Izuku clearly wasn't treated well at home. No attentive parent would let their child roam about at night weekly to do illegal activities that could very well bring about his arrest, if he was caught. And no parent would let their child get that skinny. The moment Izuku was tucked in and the two parents slipped out of their room, Hisashi gave Shota a heavy stare and questioned the boy's weight under his breath. No 15-year-old should be that tiny. Shota stayed up a bit further, wiping the corners of his eyes from mild irritation as he scrolled through his collected research on Izuku Midoriya. The self-restraint he had before in consideration for Izuku was decimated once the boy decided to hand everything Shota ever wanted on a silver platter, which would have been brilliant if the boy was facing anyone else, just not Shota. And now that he had his name and quirk status, expecting Shota not spend an hour tediously hunting down every detail online that he could was outrageous. Izuku Midoriya, 15, with a single mother and an absentee father, went to Aldera Middle School before he applied to some no-name high school in the area. Didn't have much on his public record, no awards or accomplishments. No doubt the poor boy was likely excluded from such opportunities in the first place. No sports or extracurriculars either. No social media. All he had was his name was his mother's social media, a dedicated nurse with general safety tips on her own social media after her husband disappeared from the picture. Thankfully, though, her older pictures weren't deleted, and Shota was able to eagerly download as many baby photos as he can while scowling at the mother's face. Baby Izuku is so precious that Shota feels his hands twitching as he refrains from rushing back to Izuku's room and pinching those freckled cheeks, round with leftover baby fat. How such an ugly, vile woman could produce such a perfect son was beyond Shota's understanding, but he accepted it nonetheless. Eventually, monkeys with typewriters could produce Shakespeare. All Shota could think, though, through his rumbling mind and eager need to hold and keep his people, was that Izuku was finally home. Home, in his home, had his own room, was part of the family now, where he belonged. And Shota was fully prepared for a breakdown. He knows it's bound to come, especially after his informant sends over the files regarding Izuku's more private life. His mother was, on every single bitter account, a vile woman who couldn't stand her own child, was rarely seen at home anymore, more often than not sleeping at friends' houses, taking extra shifts, or going on vacations while acting like a child-free woman. His father was clearly out of the picture and fled to America when Izuku was 4, as if he had to put an ocean between him and his child. Absolutely vile. Aizawa sends out a hit onto the man with his connections in America easily, giving the easy excuse that he took some loans and never paid them back. He'll be dead come the weekend, no doubt about it. The mother will be a different situation. Not that he won't kill her, that's far from the truth. He just wants it to be personal. Izuku always would ponder what kind of quirk he would have if he had one. Maybe one like his mum, where he could draw small objects at him at will. Perhaps one like his dad, where fire would bristle along his tongue and coat his teeth before spewing out at a moment's notice. Now, in these trying times, he thinks he'd have one more akin to a volcano, a slow-building pressure in his gut, hot and vile, threatening to spill at any second. Clammy emotions boiled in his head, the sort of strain that only repressed feelings could create, utterly volatile and strong all at once. Izuku was fine before. Everything was fine. Izuku's mother didn't stay around home often, but he knew that was because of his diagnosis. It was hard to warrant a reason for her to stay home when he was quirkless. He knew it was neglectful, he knew it was neglectful, dare say abusive, but he knew there was no better outcome he could get. And, at the end of the day, if his mother was absent long enough, he could make up ideas about her personality to comfort himself, pretend she wept every day being away from her son, that she wanted to come home but couldn't because of her schedule. Now the world expected Izuku to just watch his villains, S-class villains who no doubt had busy schedules and wild lives, were making time out of their schedules to care for him. His own mother doesn't even cook for him anymore, but Hisashi went out of his way to cook for Izuku after he got them all bento boxes. And then Shota made him dinner that night. And then the next morning, Izuku was led out by a wide-awake Hisashi to a wide American breakfast that had to take over an hour to cook. That just wasn't fair to give him. Fresh food, homemade and warm for him. Shampoo and conditioner picked out just for him. Two people are way too eager to be his parents, as if they've been waiting for the right child to wander into their lives. His own mother couldn't even be bothered to refill the fridge at times, and yet the universe wanted him to accept the fact that these random men who kidnapped him were treating him better than his own family. It just wasn't fair. It wasn't right. Izuku's room here wouldn't be bigger and nicer than his old room. For them to actually have products centered towards people with his hair, they kept trying to have genuine conversations with him, trying to actually bond with Izuku, and it was driving him crazy. Izuku shouldn't like this home he's been kidnapped to more than his own home in under 24 hours. But, oddly enough, he does. There's warm water and good food and the smell of carpets that simply doesn't exist. He's fuller than he's ever been at home. His clothes are washed. He's in soft cotton that feels wonderful, and he's being taken care of by two very keen men who seem to be looking out for his health. By all accounts, being kidnapped was the best thing to ever happen to him, and Izuku hates it. The world is cruel and bitter, but this simply feels too far, even for his shitty luck. Was this the sweet cheese on the mousetrap, the alluring treat before cold reality swooped in and crushed him all over again? It felt like it. Izuku kept waiting for the ball to drop, for them to suddenly turn hostile and distant. and distant, for them to attack him, or for him to wake up in a bathtub full of ice. But Izuku doesn't. His day continues, odd, as if this reality were not his own. How do they expect Izuku to simply settle into this? He hates it. Every soft smile, every pat on the head, it makes his blood boil. Ironically enough, it wasn't because they were villains, kidnappers, or killers. No, that'd be too easy. It was because his own damn mother couldn't bother to do such a thing, and S-class villains were beating her parenting in a day. Izuku isn't sure what to feel. He wants to scream, he wants to cry, he wants to melt into a puddle of goo and become nothing more than a concept to be forgotten. What he instead does is jerk a butter knife out as a threat to Shota when he rounds the table too close to him, feeling a tremble in his fingertips as he holds the pathetic excuse of a weapon. It's stupid. He knows it's stupid, sad, twisted up in small and useless. That was what Izuku was at that moment. As the cold utensil weighed in his hand. You can't just expect me to believe this, can you? Izuku heaves out, trying to fight back tears prickling his eyes. Always a crier, so easy to delve into tears. Genetic. His father had insisted when he was young with a roll of his eyes. Damn genetics indeed. Got everything from Inko except a quirk. That you're just going to kill dozens of people to get me, kidnap me, and just fucking raise me? You can't expect me to believe that. What Izuku is praying for is a trick. Is for a thick, villainous laugh to echo around the room, for the walls to fall away and reveal some dungeon meant for his torture, or a soft admittance of truth that they were only buttering Izuku up for this exact moment because they needed something from him, and now is the time to hand it over, willing or not. None of that comes. Instead of any of that, all that comes is that damned stare Izuku thought would haunt his nightmares, crueling and intense, picking apart Izuku where he stood as if he wanted to cherish those very pieces he plucked at. Yes, Aizawa says, like it's a fact. Izuku finds a manic, bubbling laughter within himself that escapes from his throat. Please, come on, be serious. I'm quirkless. I'm 15. I get shit grades because I don't turn in papers. The only thing I've ever contributed to this world is illegal graffiti. I'm a loser with barely any friends and I have no future for myself. Don't say that, listener, Hisashi says, moving to stand up. Meanwhile, his husband, who killed hundreds of people in his career, looks bewildered at Izuku saying such a thing. I'm a quirkless boy whose own mother can't even stand his face, Izuku shouts, throwing down the useless knife that held no real threat onto the table. The rage inside bubbles over and spills out, raw and desperate. You're trying to tell me that two random villains are giving me more attention than my own mother does. She's my fucking mom, and she doesn't even text me happy birthday anymore. I haven't heard her voice in over a month. I barely remember the last time she made me a home-cooked meal, and fuck. Izuku doesn't even stay in the kitchen. He might have screamed and cried wolf if either of them tried to stop him, but they didn't. Shota goes to, but Hisashi quickly snatches his arm and pulls him back, shaking his head to give Izuku space. And Izuku takes that space because shit, he needs it. Izuku needs a good cry right now, and he's very content to take the opportunity presented to him to do so. Even if it's one ripe with embarrassment, frustration, and humiliation, Izuku took it nonetheless. He crams himself into the corner between his bed and the wall, tucking his knees and burying his head into them, where he needed to be at the moment to stifle his tears and chokes as he sobbed into the pants Hisashi and Shota gave him. All the while, his mother's cautious face hung in his mind. Cautious? Face hung in his mind. A simple woman with a distant attitude towards her own offspring, who looked at him like he was something so accidental and unneeded that it physically hurt her. Meanwhile, while Hisashi looked at Izuku as a bright addition to their room, Shota looked at him like a piece of his life's puzzle that he couldn't bear to part with. Izuku hates his life, and himself, all the more. One thing spray painting has taught him regarding covert life skills was how to jump a fence and how to break a padlock on a door. The type of padlocks that are big and bulky, sometimes with rust coating the bottoms as a testament to their dedication. Hitoshi and Izuku both mastered the craft after several attempts. Shinzo was always really talented at parkour. Ironically enough, it seemed from the yoga classes he and his mother took every Saturday until they moved, kept him flexible and aware of his body's limits. Izuku himself was more accustomed to lock breaking. He didn't have a lot of upper body strength, but he didn't need it. There was always a good rock or brick nearby to use, and if not, he could always get creative with his hoodie. It was natural for Izuku to eye up the door and see what kind of lock there was on it, and more importantly, if he could break it. What stands in the door as Izuku eventually trails out of his room is in the ripe in the night is a single keycard scanner. Interior recently installed. They probably didn't want to risk normal locks or padlocks on Izuku. Izuku can't break through doors or through windows. He can't scale down 5 floors to the sidewalk if he did manage such a feat. But scanners? Those can be broken as well. Izuku let his fingers trail upon the cold metal installation. It only had one slot, and that was for the keycard to be slid in if the chip wasn't reading on a quick tap. A slot he couldn't pry his fingers into, but one he could pry a utensil into, like a butter knife. Guess it was going to come into use. Ironically enough, the exact same butter knife he had attempted to use as a weapon briefly earlier was still on the table right where he left it, as if they didn't want to move his only security to any unknown location just yet, lest Izuku have a worse breakdown, and that's the very knife Izuku steals away, gently prying into the thin opening of only meant for cards. It's not an instantaneous break. Izuku spends a good few minutes there, gently digging into the keycard scanner as quietly as he can while also trying to pry it off. Eventually, he feels the covering begin to peel away, and with a quick twist, the whole thing pops off into his lap, revealing the innards of the locking mechanism. Izuku isn't much of a lockpick, but he can tell where to pull to temporarily unlock the door as he jams the knife in between the slot and the lock before he finally tugs the door open. Finally, and Izuku is gone in an instant. For the next 24 hours, Izuku has an analyst quirk. That's what he decides upon as he manages to sneak onto a bus to get back to his house, anxiously telling the bus driver that he was supposed to go to an analyst quirk seminar, but his shoes got all muddy and his mum was out of town, so he had no way to comfortably walk back. The bus driver, an older man with a crooked mustache, apologizes to Izuku for the uncomfortable situation he was stuck inside and lets him on without any money. It's a bit uncomfortable to go back into analysis after so long, ditching away his fanatic history. Even with his constant help from Hitoshi, he hadn't really stepped into analyzing other quirks unless it was to help him in his training for UA. But the bus driver is exceptionally kind, and when he mentions having a bit of difficulty with his daughter's quirk, Izuku offers to help for payment. It's a distraction he takes with gratitude, situated in the seat behind the driver as he uses a borrowed notebook to draw up a simple plan for an adjusted diet according to his daughter's needs for calories to sustain her quirk, and where she could apply her quirk to architecture design, her apparent dream. The focus on the task at hand is enough to ease his guilt for lying to the bus driver for a free ride and muffles out the constant anxiety of being caught again. He's not sure what he's going to do when he gets home. Probably find Hitoshi and then gather his things and ditch this town after he sees his mom. He'll figure it out from there. He always does. The suffocating fear of being caught weighs in the back of his mind as he passes the time with the little notebook the driver gave him, trying to quash such thoughts before they could become horrible leeches. It's fine. If Razorhead tries a repeat of what happened before, Izuku doesn't really know anymore. He doesn't. All he knows is is that he needs to quickly get home and sort out his future from there, fast and brief, so he can quickly leave and start getting distance in a Razorhead, so in case a Razorhead does try again, because that's clearly a solid plan, with no holes or issues or... Okay, he's fucked. Izuku can't stay there any longer without feeling his skin crawl with discomfort and hatred. Every second of their treatment drove him wild with confusion, every moment reminding him that they spent as much time with him as his mother did in the last 4 months. Ironic, huh? He forced himself to see a Razorhead because he was trained not to be a coward and save people. Now he's running away because he was nothing but a coward. Pathetic, really. Izuku chews on his fingernail until it bleeds. The metallic taste hitting his tongue as he scribbles down another bullet point to consider. The best course of action would be to hate his mother and the kidnappers who stole him away, to hate society for looking down on him because of the joints of all things, to hate his genetics, which led him to be quirkless, to his school and bullies who disregarded him at every turn, no matter how small and impressionable he was. But at the end of the day, in the darkness of the early morning or on a late night bus, Izuku can only find he hates himself far more than anyone else could. Hitoshi told his parents about Izuku missing 2 hours after Izuku went silent with replies. The police report was handed as blandly as one would expect. It took Hitoshi's mother threatening legal action for the police to finally fold and make Izuku reported missing after 24 hours. A whole day of waiting anxiously for the law enforcement to actually give a damn for a boy who deserved so much more than the world would ever give. Ironically enough, it's not even Inko Midoriya who shows up at Hitoshi's house in nervous panic about the boy's disappearance. He knows she would have received the report, that an officer would have pulled her aside from work and taken a statement that would have no doubt been rushed and disregarded. It's Bakugo Katsuki's mother. She's so jarringly kind that Hitoshi nearly has a stroke. He swears, how could an admittedly loud but well-meaning woman produce such hellspawn? Katsuki was a jackass who had anger issues and the personality of a snapping turtle. Bakugo Mitsuki was a self-assured, caring mother who was worried about the boy she used to babysit back in the day. And isn't that a blow to Izuku? Not even his own mother contacted the person who reported him missing. An old family friend who was barking out on the phone at Inko's voicemail, yelling at the woman for going offline at a time like this. Hitoshi's mother pulled him to the side and murmured as she washed the dishes, I doubt that woman stayed near that family for Inko as long as she did. And yeah, that's right, he supposes. Mitsuki seemed to give out several tasteful swear words that he hadn't even heard from Bakugo, much less at her supposed friend, while she was fretting over the friend's child. Then she called her own son and swore him up and down for not keeping an eye on Izuku and berated him for being an ass of a friend to the poor boy. If only she knew. Hitoshi doesn't keep still while his friend is off the radar. He swings by Izuku's home twice, checks all of the usual meet-up spots, and even walks past the local homeless shelter in case Izuku is trying to hide out for the time being. Nothing. Until Izuku shows up later, like a fucking jerk, off a bus. Hitoshi can barely believe his eyes. Izuku fucking Midoriya wearing an outfit he's never seen the boy in before, climbing out of a street bus in the ripe morning rays as he gingerly waves goodbye to the bus driver. Shoeless, too. Hitoshi realizes as Izuku steps out in patterned socks he doesn't recognize. Izuku has been missing for nearly 48 hours and he just walks off a bus looking safe after he went to go meet the biggest threat of a villain alone? Hitoshi isn't sure whether he wants to kick or punch his best friend in the face. He settles for tackling him into a hug instead, trying not to cry from frustrated relief. Hitoshi, Izuku... Wait. What? All Izuku gets is a warning of his footsteps before Hitoshi draws him in, wrapping his arms around his artistic friend and vowing on his life to never let go again. There isn't a second of hesitation before Izuku's arms reciprocate, and Hitoshi almost swears from the realization that he might have never had a hug from Izuku again. Hitoshi, Izuku nearly sobs, and Hitoshi holds him tighter. Where the fuck have you been? Are you okay? Hitoshi asks, his words rambling as he holds his friend, who smells oddly like lavender. What the fuck happened to Izuku? I'm fine. It's a long story, Izuku explains quickly. I can't stay here, though. I need to grab an emergency bag and get out of town. They know my name, so they probably already found out where I lived, and I have to leave before they catch me. Which Hitoshi expects. Izuku wouldn't suddenly vanish and return without someone on his trail. As much as he hates it, it also makes sense. He spent so much time dreading what Eraserhead would have done to his friend that Izuku mysteriously disappearing after going out to confront him was only another sign of what may have happened. The fact that Izuku got away was good enough as was. Hitoshi would do whatever his friend needed of him. Okay, we can figure this out, Hitoshi says, pulling away from Izuku as he looks him up and down. His best friend looks unharmed. Hell, he even looks a bit better than when he left. A confusing outcome, but if his friend wasn't hurt, he'd take it in stride. We can stop by your house and then go grab my parents, and they can drive us down to my aunt's house by the lake. It's a few-hour drive, but you can hide out there until we find a better solution. She's a bit of a nutcase, but she lives in the middle of nowhere. She'll keep you on the down low if needed. It's not the first time Hitoshi made that offer to Izuku, though he knows Izuku still had a fragile hope of his mother of love from his mother that the boy wouldn't admit he held him back. Okay, I just need to say bye to my mum real quick. Is she at home? Oh. Hitoshi doesn't say anything after that question, but he doesn't need to. There's a moment of realization from Izuku as his breath hitches, and the answer comes to the quirkless boy without even needing it to be spoken. Izuku adjusts his grip on Hitoshi, looking so tender and raw that Hitoshi wants to never let Izuku go. That's his friend, goddammit, and Hitoshi has been through thick and thin with him. No matter what plagued Izuku's life, he made a promise to himself that he'd never let his friend suffer it alone. Oh, there you are, kiddo. Hitoshi has never heard that voice before. What greets him as the purple-haired teenage boy turns around is someone he's never met, sitting perched upon some sort of cloud that probably was the man's quirk, wearing these thick yellow goggles and a soft, wide smile as he watched the two. The man is dressed casually as if he was out on a morning stroll. I'm sorry? Hitoshi asks, his hand still firmly planted on Izuku's shoulder. Even a world-class villain would have to pry his cold, dead body from Izuku at this moment. The stranger grins at him and hops off the cloud that dissipates behind him as he strolls forward. I guess Shota didn't tell you, huh? I'm your new uncle. Name's Oboro. Shota? Oboro? Uncle? Who the hell? He glances towards Izuku and sees how Izuku's face is entirely drained of color. Pale. His freckles the only color on his pasty skin. That's a look of utter fear that causes Hitoshi to startle, to hold on tighter and stare towards the imposing stranger. I let him know I found you so he won't go on a wild goose chase, killing anyone. Kid, he's sweet. I promise. Just a little bonkers. Aren't the best people, though, Oboro says, shrugging, and Hitoshi feels dread build in his chest as he stares in horror before him. Oboro glances at Hitoshi and gives a slight gasp. Oh, you're with your friend, right? Sorry about interrupting. I was just really excited to meet you. It's not every day a Razorhead really snags onto someone. You know? A Razorhead. He was talking about a Razorhead. That Cloud. Oh, fuck. He's Loud Cloud. Another big contender villain. He specializes in heists, usually, but there's been a good few hero deaths he has under his belt. Big hero names, too. Izuku and Hitoshi were looking at Loud Cloud, who was looking for Izuku for a Razorhead and claiming to be his uncle. What the fuck? He needs to do something. Use his quirk, grab Izuku and run. Why don't we spend some time with your friend before we go back? Oboro asks, waving his hands and snapping Hitoshi out of his stunned silence. What? Hitoshi asks. What the fuck is happening? They had a lookout. Of course they did. Izuku hisses to himself, running a hand across his forehead before he gently grabs onto Hitoshi's hand. As his movements are slow, but his fingers tremble. You expect me to let you go with my friend? Hitoshi asks, trying to bait him. Oboro shoots Hitoshi a glance, his lips pressed together. The silence carries on long enough to show that the man is very much aware of his quirk, which sends an unpleasant shiver down his spine. They must have looked not only into Izuku, but Hitoshi as well, by associating with him. Fuck. What the hell were they dealing with? You know, Ezekiel asks, his voice strained. Oboro laughs awkwardly, rubbing at the back of his neck. Sorry about that, bud, but Shota ain't real keen on letting his kid run around with friends unless he checks in on them. He sent me a few locations to check out once he found out you left, and Hitoshi's house was on the list. You're Hitoshi, right? It's nice to meet you. Sorry about the introduction. I know Shota can come off as strong with his wants. Heaven knows he freaked me out when we first started becoming friends. Wait, you experienced that as well? Izuku asks, leaning forward slightly. Izuku, Hitoshi hisses, because they should be running right now, fighting back, anything. But Izuku was... Hitoshi has no idea what's going on. What the fuck is happening? You're not the only person he latched onto out of nowhere, kid. Oboro says and offers a soft, reassuring smile towards Izuku that makes Hitoshi choke on his gasp. Why was he being so nice? Why wasn't Izuku running? Why don't we go get some coffee? My treat, guys. I'll let Eraserhead know the chase is off, and you can talk to your friend about everything. I won't chase him off or hurt him. I have a rule about kids anyway. Anyways, what Izuku should be doing is running away, but he looks over at Hitoshi, strained and desperate, and there's clearly something else on his mind that Hitoshi doesn't know about. Come on, it'll be fun. You kids can talk about everything with me. I'm not a peep of it will get to show. That's what he gets for making me go on a wild goose chase this morning anyway. I'm not a morning person in the slightest. I need some sugar to get me going. Loud Cloud, as if this was totally normal, rounds near them and rests a hovering arm over Izuku's shoulder as if he wants to help guide him but not cross his boundaries more than he has to. Let's go. It'll be cool. You guys probably haven't even eaten yet. I know a good place just down the block. Hitoshi likes researching villains. He likes learning about them and likes seeing their fights. But he's self-preservation. He always promised himself if it came down to it, he would run. But Izuku was here, and he's got something on his mind now. Something that seemed to make him want to move forward and accept the villain's request for coffee. And Hitoshi made another promise to himself. If Izuku ever ran into fire, he would follow. No matter what sort of fire it was, it's why he stuck to watch Izuku's late-night art trips despite the arrest warrant to put for the illegal painter. Izuku could lead down the darkest path imaginable, and Hitoshi would follow, hook, line, and sinker. So he huffs, not pleased at all, but moves forward with Izuku in tow to whatever path to hell this was. Okay, lovelies, that was chapter 7 of Colours of Obsession by Bubbly Ship. Chapter 8 doesn't have a title. I actually think it's a shorter chapter than this one was, but I'm not quite sure. But, yeah, I mean, I really like that Oboro's in this book, like, really, I love Oboro when he's in fanfiction. You know, I love, like, UA Survival Guide and stuff like that, so I really like that he survives in this fic. I mean, yeah, I really like, that's top tier things. I also really like the way they've written both the characters in this chapter. I like that Izuku runs away, and I like that we see kind of what, a bit more of Izuku's personality in the sense of his mother, because up until now, we haven't really heard a whole bunch about his mother and like his feelings towards her, and in this chapter we get a lot about how Izuku actually does miss his mother, and how like how he really has some level of belief that she might come back one day and that she might love him again and show that care that he desperately wants, which is really sweet. I really like that. I really like his friendship with Hitoshi in this one too. They don't misappropriate Hitoshi's quirk in this, which I'm really glad about. Yeah. Anyways, my lovelies. Oh no, that sounds weird. Okay. As always, remember to eat, drink, sleep, and have a good rest of your day, night, or afternoon, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!